Forget follow your passion. That advice nearly ruined my life, not because it's wrong, but because it's incomplete. What saved me wasn't a book or a mentor. It were just 12 uncomfortable questions I finally dared to ask. Chapter 1. Questions for self-awareness. Let's start with this. Who are you when no one's watching? I once spent an entire week pretending to be fine at work while quietly battling burnout. Not one person noticed, and honestly, I took pride in that. That's when I realized I'd gotten too good at the performance. Most people live their entire lives performing. For their boss, their family, strangers on social media. They get so good at it, they forget who they are underneath it all. There's a framework I call the hidden self. Think of your identity as a stage. Your surface self is what the audience sees, polished, presentable, saying the right things at meetings. Your shadow self lives backstage, the parts you hide, like your real dreams, your messy flaws, your untamed curiosity. And your core self? That's who you are when the curtain falls, the quiet you, the values that show up when nobody's watching. Most people never dig past the surface. These 3 questions changed that for me. Question 1. What do I do when no one is watching? 6 months before I quit my job, I was working late one night. Everyone else had gone home. I had a project due next week, and technically I didn't need to finish it that day. No one would have known, but I stayed. That moment taught me something. I have a weird relationship with unfinished work. It literally keeps me awake at night. Not because anyone's watching, but because leaving things undone feels wrong. Your private behavior reveals your actual values, not the ones you post about, but the ones you live by. Some people are naturally generous. They tip well, help strangers, clean up messes they didn't make. Some are quiet perfectionists, while others are quiet rebels who break small rules, question norms, even when no one would ever know. None of these are right or wrong. They're just true. Here is my challenge for you. For the next few days, notice your private moments. What music do you play when you're alone in the car? Do you put the shopping cart back? Do you fix mistakes when no one's watching? Write down what you notice, because who you are in private is who you actually are. I've created a free worksheet to help you reflect on all 12 questions and turn your insights into real clarity. Comment interested below and I will share the link to access it on demand. Question 2. What would I do if I couldn't fail? This question isn't about fantasy. It's about what you'd pursue today, not if you were guaranteed success, but if failure weren't something you feared. Most people answer with generic dreams. I'd quit my job and travel, or I'd start a business. But that's not an answer. That's a placeholder. The real answer is specific. It's probably something you could begin tomorrow if you weren't afraid of judgment, discomfort, or risk. For me, it was content creation. Just writing every day, sharing my thoughts, building something of my own. Unfortunately, I'd told myself I wasn't good enough, that nobody cared, that it was too competitive. And then I realized I was already failing to do the thing I wanted most because I never gave myself a chance to try. So ask yourself, if fear weren't in the picture, what would you actually start doing? Would you have that difficult conversation? Apply for that role? Publish that post? Question 3. What patterns keep showing up in my life? I didn't want to admit this one, but the moment I asked it, a pattern stared back at me. I stay too long, in jobs, in friendships, in projects. Sometimes that loyalty pays off. I've weathered storms others gave up on, but other times it traps me. I confuse endurance with wisdom. That's how I stayed at my failed ventures for far too long. Not because of logic, but because of a subconscious belief. Leaving equals failure. Once I saw the pattern, I was able to rewrite it. If you want to spot your patterns, start by reviewing your last 3 major decisions, like a job change, a move, or a breakup. For each one, ask yourself, what was I afraid of at the time? What ultimately guided my choice? Fear, habit, guilt, excitement? Don't judge what you find. Just get honest, because your patterns become your systems, and your systems shape your life. So now you've seen the real you, the you behind the performance, the you beyond fear. That's your foundation. But knowing yourself isn't the finish line, it's the launch pad. The next step? Making decisions that actually match who you are. Chapter 2. Questions for decision making. So now you've seen who you really are. That's your foundation. But self-awareness without action is like insight collecting dust. Here's what I learned the hard way. Knowing yourself is only half the battle. The other half is making decisions that actually align with who you are. A year ago, I knew I wanted to leave my corporate job. I'd done the self-reflection. I understood my patterns. I could see my hidden self clearly, but I was paralyzed. Every decision felt massive. Every choice felt permanent. I'd make pro and con lists. I'd ask everyone for advice. I'd research until my eyes bled, but I wasn't getting anywhere. That's when I realized something. I wasn't asking the right questions. Like most people, I was asking myself the safe questions. What's the logical choice? What would others do? What's the smart move? These questions kept me stuck because they're designed to avoid discomfort, not create clarity. That's when I decided to use the framework I call the decision clarity lens. It helps you think of every major decision as looking through 3 different lenses. The future lens shows you what you'll regret if you don't act. The reality lens shows you what you can actually handle. The cost lens shows you what you're giving up by staying where you are. Most people only look through one lens at a time. That's why they stay stuck. These 3 questions changed everything for me. Question 4. What will I regret more? Trying and failing, or not trying at all? This one hit me hard. I was in my office late at night, working on yet another spreadsheet. I remember thinking, is this what I'll still be doing in 5 years? The fear wasn't that I'd fail if I left. It was that if I stayed, I'd succeed at something that didn't really matter to me. Here's the thing no one tells you about regret. They are of 2 kinds, the regret of action and the regret of inaction. The I shouldn't have done that and I should have tried that. Research done by psychologist Thomas Gilovich found that long-term regret is overwhelmingly about inaction. In fact, 76% of people's biggest regrets are the things they never tried. When I asked, what will I regret more at 60? The answer was clear. I'd regret not trying. Now it's your turn. Think about something you've been putting off. What will your older self wish you'd done? Write it down. That's your compass. Question 5. What's the worst realistic outcome and can I handle it? Notice I said realistic, not catastrophic, not worst-case scenario. Most people avoid decisions because they imagine disasters that will never happen. When I considered quitting, I imagined total ruin. But when I got honest about the realistic worst case, it was this. I'd burn through my savings in 18 months, the business wouldn't work, and I'd have to get another corporate job. Maybe at a lower level, maybe with some explaining to do. Was that scary? Yes. Was it survivable? Absolutely. And once I faced that scenario, I started preparing for it. I saved more money. I kept my professional network warm. I built skills that would transfer back to corporate if needed. Harvard calls this a pre-mortem, and it works because preparing for failure makes success more likely. Now it's your turn. Pick a decision you're avoiding. Write down the realistic worst-case outcome. Then ask yourself, can you handle that? What would you do if it happened? Question 6. What am I giving up by not deciding? This was the question that broke me out of my loop. I was so focused on the risks of leaving that I didn't consider what I was losing by staying. I was giving up flexibility. I was giving up creativity. I was giving up the chance to build something that was mine. Every day I stayed was a day I wasn't becoming the person I wanted to be. People mostly think about decisions in terms of what they'll gain, but every decision is really about what you'll trade, what you'll stop giving up. For example, if you're saying yes to comfort, you may be saying no to growth. If you are saying yes to someone else's vision, then you are saying no to your own. This question forces trade-off thinking, not just what you gain, but what you give up. Ask yourself this question: what are you giving up by staying in your current situation? What part of yourself are you trading away? Write it down, because sometimes the cost of staying is higher than the cost of leaving. As you can see, the 3 questions work together like a spotlight. One shows you what matters to your future self. Another grounds you in what's realistically possible. And the last reveals what you're silently sacrificing. You now have the tools to make better decisions. But the people around you, they shape those decisions more than you think. If your environment doesn't support your growth, even the best plans fall apart. So let's talk about the one system most people never design intentionally: relationships. Chapter 3. Questions for relationships. There's an old adage, you become who you spend time with. Not intentionally, not consciously, but inevitably. I learned this lesson at multiple points in my life. Whenever I was surrounded by people who complained constantly, I would slowly become one of them without even realizing it. I would end up complaining about work, about life, about everything. And it was much later that I realized that it was a vicious cycle where I ended up bonding with people over shared frustrations. I thought I was just being realistic, but I was actually being toxic. After prolonged periods of being stuck in this loop, I realized something profound. My relationships weren't just reflecting who I was, they were shaping who I was becoming. Most people think relationships just happen to them. They accept whoever shows up. They stay loyal to connections that drain them. They wonder why they keep attracting the same types of people. But relationships aren't random. They're mirrors. And like mirrors, they show you exactly what you're putting out into the world. There's a framework I call the relationship mirror. Think of every relationship as reflecting three things. First, your best self. It's who you are when you're operating at your highest level. Second, your contribution. It's what you naturally give to others without thinking about it. Third, your patterns. They are the dynamics you keep recreating over and over. Most people never look in the mirror. They just react to what shows up. These three questions changed how I see every relationship in my life. Question 7. Who am I when I'm at my best, and who brings that out in me? This question hit me during a conversation with my then-to-be wife. We met for the first time and were casually chit-chatting. And somehow, in the span of 30 minutes, I went from normal to a high-energy state. That's when it clicked. She didn't just listen, she tuned in. Not everyone has that effect on me. Some people make me defensive. Some make me smaller, more careful, less willing to take risks. None of this is intentional. It's just chemistry. But once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Your best self isn't who you are all the time. It's who you are when the conditions are right, when you feel safe to be honest, when you feel challenged to grow, when you feel seen for who you really are. The people who bring out your best self aren't just good friends. They're mirrors showing you your potential. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. Think about the last time you felt truly energized after spending time with someone. Who was it? What did they do that made you feel that way? Write down their name and the specific qualities they bring out in you. Next, think about who you spend most of your time with. Do they bring out your best self, or do they bring out something else? The idea isn't to judge people, it's to be intentional about who you become. Question 8. What do I consistently give to others without being asked? I discovered my answer to this question by accident when I was doing my MBA. A classmate pulled me aside and said, "You know why people come to you, right? You don't give advice. You ask questions that help people figure it out themselves." Honestly, I'd never noticed that. But once she pointed it out, I saw it everywhere. I wasn't trying to be helpful. It just happened naturally. That's your contribution. It's the thing you give without thinking about it. The value you add just by being yourself. Some people are natural connectors. You know them. They introduce people who should know each other. Others are natural encouragers. Similarly, some are natural organizers. Your contribution is your gift to the world, but most people don't recognize it because it feels effortless to them. Here's why this matters. When you're clear on what you naturally give, you attract people who need what you offer, and you stop trying to be something you're not. Growing up, I was somewhat introvert. However, I used to think I should be more social, more entertaining, more of a people person, but that's not my contribution. My contribution is helping people think more clearly. Once I embraced that, I stopped trying to be the life of the party and started being the person who helps others see possibilities. That's what I am trying to do with this YouTube channel and my newsletter. You don't need to figure it out alone. Ask a few people close to you. What do I do that helps you even when I'm not trying to help? You might be surprised by what you hear. Look for patterns. That's your contribution. Then ask yourself, am I in relationships and environments where this contribution is valued? If not, that might explain why you feel drained or unappreciated. Question 9. What relationship patterns do I keep attracting? This question made me uncomfortable because I didn't want to admit I had patterns. But I do. We all do. I attract people who I can help, who need fixing. People with potential they're not using. People with problems they can't solve alone. People who are brilliant but stuck. For years, I thought this was just coincidence. But patterns aren't coincidence. They're unconscious choices. I realized part of me liked being the one with answers. It gave me a sense of purpose, but it came with a cost. I was surrounding myself with people who took my energy without giving it back. People who wanted my help, but not my friendship. People who disappeared once they got what they needed. I wasn't a victim. but I wasn't choosing consciously either. Once I saw the pattern, I could choose differently. I started asking myself, am I drawn to this person because they need me or because they add to my life? The shift was subtle but powerful. I stopped being the go-to person for everyone's problems and started being selective. So take a moment to reflect. Think about your last 3 significant relationships: a close friendship, a romantic partner, a work collaboration. What threads connect them? What kinds of people do you repeatedly find yourself drawn to? You don't need to label the pattern right away. Just start noticing, because once you see it, you can start changing it. By now, you've seen how your relationships reflect and shape who you become. But here's the final test. Does your work reflect any of that? Because if your job doesn't align with your energy, your impact, or your legacy, you'll always feel like something's missing. Let's figure out what work actually fits you. Chapter 4, Questions for Career and Purpose. So now you know who you are. You know how to make clear decisions. You know how to build relationships that bring out your best. But let me ask you something. Does your work reflect any of that? Because for years, mine didn't. Here's what nobody tells you about career advice. Most of it is backwards, with advices like, follow your passion, find your purpose, do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. I spent years chasing these advices. I took personality tests. I read career books. I watched hundreds of career advice videos. I went to networking events asking people how they found their calling. And yet, I stayed confused. That's because passion isn't something you find. It's something you build. Purpose isn't something you discover. It's something you create through the work you choose to do. I learned this the hard way when I had switched jobs. I thought I knew what I wanted to do. I had a plan. I had passion. But within a few months, I was miserable again. Not because the work was hard, but because I was doing work that looked good on paper, but wasn't exciting enough. I was solving problems I cared little about. I was building things that didn't energize me. I was trying to make an impact in ways that didn't feel authentic. That's when I realized career clarity doesn't come from finding your passion. It comes from understanding your professional DNA. There's a framework I call the professional North Star, which helps best understand this. Think of your ideal career as 3 intersecting circles. First circle is your energy. These are the problems that actually energize you to solve. The second circle is your impact. These are the meaningful work you'd regret not attempting. The third circle is your legacy. This is how you want to be remembered for the work you do. Most people focus on only one circle. They chase energy without impact, or impact without energy, or legacy without either. But your professional North Star lives at the intersection of all 3. These 3 questions helped me find mine. Question 10. What problems do I actually enjoy solving? Most of us build careers around what we're good at. I was good at business operations, and to be honest, I enjoyed a lot about that role, but the problems that truly energized me were different. That clarity made the decision easier. I didn't want to throw away my experience. I wanted to build on it. Your energy is your compass. Think about the last time you solved a problem and felt energized afterward. That's your energy signature. Question 11. What idea would I regret not attempting? This question terrified me because I knew the answer immediately. I'd regret not building something that could help millions of people think more clearly. For years, I told myself that was too ambitious, too risky, too egotistical. But regret isn't about what's realistic. It's about what's authentic. The work you'd regret not attempting isn't necessarily the work you'll succeed at. It's the work that matters enough to you that not trying would feel like betraying yourself. I see this with so many people. They have an idea that keeps coming back, a problem they keep thinking about, a vision that excites and terrifies them, but they dismiss it as unrealistic. I'd love to write a blog, but who would read it? I'd love to start a company, but I don't have the experience. These aren't rational objections. They're fear disguised as logic. Here's what I learned. The work you'd regret not attempting is usually the work that scares you the most. Here's a thought exercise. Try to finish this sentence without editing yourself. If I knew I couldn't fail, I would attempt. Write down whatever comes up first. Don't judge it. Don't rationalize it. Just notice it. That's your regret insurance. The work that would haunt you if you never tried. Question 12. How do I want people to describe my work when I'm not in the room? This is a powerful question that cuts through all the noise and gets to the heart of legacy. Not the legacy you think you should want, the legacy you actually want. For the first 40 years of my life, I wanted to be known for being successful, but when I really thought about it, I wanted someone to say, he helped me become a better version of myself. Your legacy isn't about what you accomplish. It's about how you change people. The right questions don't just give you clarity. They give you momentum. Check out this video to know how to build systems that turn clarity into reality.